Hello everyone, this is Wei Mao. In this video, I will introduce the recently developed phosphorus function for ArcNLET-Py. If you have any questions, please contact us and our emails are here. This presentation consists of three parts. First, a brief introduction to ArcNLET-Py. Second, an explanation of the conceptual model for phosphorus used in ArcNLET-Py. And lastly, a detailed case study for how to use the phosphorus function. Okay, let's begin with the first part, the brief introduction of ArcNLET-Py. OSTDS means on-site sewage treatment and disposal systems, and OSTDS are used by more than 20% of US population, according to EPA. And moreover, the sewage from this system is a significant source of nitrogen and phosphorus in groundwater. To address this problem, ArcNLET was developed to estimate both nitrogen and phosphorus loads from OSTDS to groundwater and subsequently to surface water bodies. ArcNLET is short for ArcGIS-based Nutrient Load Estimation Toolbox. The early version of ArcNLET only can calculate nitrogen, but we've now added a phosphorus function, so we changed the name from Nitrogen Load Estimation Toolbox to Nutrient Load Estimation Toolbox. The new name can better reflect what it does currently. The development of ArcNLET has lasted for more than 10 years, led by Dr. Ye, Dr. Rios, Dr. Wang, Dr. Zhu, and others. Since last year, we have significantly redeveloped the toolbox, creating a new version called ArcNLET-Py. This new version is rewritten in Python and integrated with ArcGIS Pro. On the right of this slide, you can see a figure showing the results from an ArcNLET calculation. And we can see many plumes, which represent the distribution of nitrogen in groundwater as calculated by ArcNLET-Py. The color on the figure shows different concentrations. Here are some useful web pages for ArcNLET. And first, we have a GitHub page for ArcNLET-Py. All our code is open source, and on this page, you can find the code, example data, and the online manual. Next is Dr. Ye's YouTube channel. This channel has a series of detailed videos that cover from the underlying principles to practical applications about ArcNLET. We will also upload this video there too. Lastly, that's the FSU ArcNLET webpage. It hosts software, manual, and some example cases, but please note that it's for the older version of ArcNLET currently. These slides give an overview of what's coming up in the rest of this presentation. In the second part, I will introduce the conceptual and mathematical models used to develop OSTDS phosphorus functionality in ArcNLET-Py. In the third part, I will demonstrate how to use the phosphorus function with the Lakeshore example. Well, for users who are new to ArcNLET-Py, it is recommended to watch the introductory video and follow the tutorial to become familiar with the toolbox and its features before proceeding. Okay, let's go to the conceptual model of phosphorus. Phosphorus loss from septic tanks can impact water quality at much lower concentrations compared to nitrogen. Phosphorus in wastewater comes from human waste, detergents, food waste, and so on. As we can see in this figure, the total phosphorus concentration in wastewater is around 10 mg per liter. But if you look at the API criteria, it's just 0.1 mg per liter for flowing water and 0.05 mg per liter for stream entering lakes. That's about 100 to 200 times difference. This is why we developed the phosphorus function, because the phosphorus concentration in the OSTDS is so much higher than what the EPA recommends. This slide includes information from the literature on phosphorus concentration and types in OSTDS. Total phosphorus concentration in septic tank wastewater range from 0.2 to 32 mg per liter, with an average around 9 to 10 mg per liter. In septic tank wastewater, about 85% of the phosphorus is in the form of inorganic phosphorus, while the remaining 15% is organic phosphorus. Well, most organic phosphorus is eventually mineralized into inorganic phosphorus in the soil. Therefore, when data is lacking, we can assume that total phosphorus concentration in septic tank wastewater are roughly equal to inorganic phosphorus levels. Here, inorganic phosphorus refers to orthophosphate. You can find more information in the reference literature. Now let's talk about phosphorus reactive transport in the vadose zone and the groundwater. This is a key aspect of our phosphorus function. Relative transport of phosphate can be divided into three mechanisms. Let's advection, dispersion, and reaction. I have some pictures here. Advection is when solids move with the water. Think of a river carrying a leaf. When the river flows 10 meters, the leaf goes along with it. Advection doesn't change the relative position of the solids like this figure shows. They just move with the water. Well, dispersion is different because it changes the relative position of the solids. Imagine putting sugar in coffee. It spreads out. Dispersion describes similar behavior, but it is more complex and includes hydrodynamic dispersion and molecular dispersion. You can find more details about this on Wiki or in books. Well, neither advection nor dispersion changes the total amount of solute in the water. However, the third process, reaction, does impact the total amount of solute as shown in this figure. This process is known as phosphate sorption, and we will focus on this. According to the book Phosphorus, Agriculture and the Environment, the phosphate sorption process works like this. These little balls represent phosphate ions. First, there is an equilibrium between the phosphate in solution and the solid phase. When more phosphate is added into the water, the concentration in the solution increases. This leads to a rapid absorption process where phosphate ions move from the solution to the solid surface, establishing a new equilibrium. This happens quickly, typically within seconds to minutes. And after that, the phosphate begins to diffuse into the solid phase. This isn't just one process, it is actually a combination of several processes that can take hours to days. Well, in a simple terms, phosphate sorption is a two-step process. First, there is a quick and reversible process, followed by a series of slower, irreversible processes. This is phosphate sorption. Here are some more specialized descriptions. Phosphate sorption is really complex, including a combination of several processes, and it can be influenced by factors such as soil texture, soil organic matter, pH, mineralogy, temperature, and the degree of soil phosphorus saturation. Well, generally, phosphate sorption is divided into a faster, reversible process and a range of slower, irreversible processes. Well, we should know this division is somewhat arbitrary, and these slower processes are more complex and have been described by various authors using different names, where it is still challenging to describe them accurately. Alright, based on this knowledge, here are conceptual models. Phosphorus in a model exists in three forms, represented by the three colored balls in this picture. The yellow balls are soluble phosphate, which can move through advection and dispersion. The red ball represents a dropped phosphate, which is attached to the surface of soil particles. And there is an equilibrium between soluble and a dropped phosphate. The gray ball represents a stable phosphate. It is important to note that a dropped phosphate and a stable phosphate don't move with the water. Well, different forms of phosphate can transform into one another. To illustrate this transformation clearly, we have this figure. We have three phosphate, and the soluble phosphate and the dropped phosphate are in an equilibrium, and this is a faster, reversible process we described before, and we described a slower, irreversible phosphate using precipitation, and both soluble and a dropped phosphate can turn into stable phosphate through precipitation. Okay, this is a phosphorus conceptual model. Alright, we know that a soluble phosphate and a dropped phosphate are in equilibrium. But how do we describe this equilibrium? We have a few options, and in the end, we decided to use both the Langmuir equation and the linear equation to explain this process. Looking at this figure in the upper right, and it illustrates the difference between the two equations. This figure shows the relationship between soluble phosphate and solid phosphate. The x-axis represents concentration of soluble phosphate, while the y-axis shows the corresponding concentration of solid phosphate at equilibrium. One major difference is that Langmuir equation has an upper limitation, as we can see here, while the linear equation doesn't. Well, actually, soil have a maximum capacity for absorption, meaning there is only so much space for phosphorus absorption. If all available absorption sites are occupied, there will be no more space for additional absorption. Therefore, the amount of absorbed phosphorus can't be infinite. This is a big plus for Langmuir equation. On the other hand, for linear equation, it's super simple and requires just one parameter. However, it doesn't perform well at high solute concentrations. Therefore, we recommend using the linear equation when phosphate concentrations range from less than 1 mg per liter to less than 10 mg per liter. For larger phosphate concentrations, we suggest using the Langmuir equation since it accounts for the limitations we mentioned previously. Okay, this covers the equilibrium description. Now for the precipitation, it is quite easy. We use the first order reaction rate to describe the process. And now let's move to the governing equations. Since ArcNLET is a steady state model and there is no time variable in our equation, which means the left term is 0. Okay, for the vadose zone, we use two equations to describe phosphate reactive transport. Here, this term represents dispersion, this term represents advection, and this term accounts for equilibrium absorption in our model. And finally, this term describes the precipitation process. And we will use the finite difference method to solve the equation, but I won't dive into the details. When it comes to groundwater, we recommend using linear absorption for groundwater transport, as phosphorus concentrations are likely to be considerably less than 10 mg per liter. Okay, this is the governing equation, and this term is dispersion. This term is advection. This term again accounts for equilibrium absorption in our model, and lastly, this term describes the precipitation process. Okay, that's our conceptual model and the mathematical model. Alright, let's go to the third part, case study. This is a Lakeshore example. If you watched our introductory video or checked the online manual, you might already be familiar with it. The Lakeshore neighborhood is situated in Jacksonville, Florida, and it has a total of 265 septic tanks as shown in this slide. And you can find the data of this example on our ArcNLET-Py GitHub page. Okay, the GitHub page looks like this. And you can find the data in this folder example, and this is the data. If you download this data, you can find the folder is organized like this. There are 3 cases, and for phosphorus, it's a third case. and inside there are 6 subfolders corresponding to 6 different modules, and we give the inputs and outputs for each module, and there is and you can also find a screenshot under each module. And this screenshot contains the detailed parameter that we used. Okay, let's back to our presentation. Let's begin with the data preparation. And before the simulation, there are 4 files that we need to prepare, which are start area, DEM, location of septic tanks, and surface water bodies. This case extends a previous example by incorporating the phosphorus calculation components. Therefore, we already have these files, as I showed you can find on our GitHub webpage. And the objective of this case is to show the procedure for using ArcNLET-Py to estimate the loading of nitrogen, including ammonium and nitrate, and phosphorus from OSTDS to surface water bodies. We have a total of 6 modules, and we will go through all of them, focusing on what you need to know when using the phosphorus function. I won't dive too deeply into areas we already covered in previous cases. Okay, let's start with the pre-processing module. And the objective of this module is to extract data from the online Sorgo database for subsequent calculations. The input is the start area, and the outputs include regional scale hydraulic conductivity, porosity, and soil types. This is consistent with our previous case. And for groundwater flow module, the objective of this module is to calculate groundwater velocity and velocity direction based on the DEM and soil data. The inputs are DEM, water bodies, and hydraulic conductivity and porosity prepared by the pre-processing module. And the outputs include velocity magnitude, velocity direction, hydraulic gradient, and the smooth DEM. This module is also consistent with our previous cases. For particle tracking module, the objective is to simulate water particle movement from sources. That means location of septic tanks to surface water bodies. And the inputs are velocity magnitude and velocity direction calculated by groundwater flow module, locations of the septic tanks, water bodies, and the porosity prepared by the pre-processing module. The outputs are particle passes, and we can see this slice. Each line represents the transport path of a particle from a septic tank to surface water bodies. Next, we move to the VMod module, and here you will notice the difference when using the phosphorus function. And the objective of VMod module is to model nitrogen and phosphorus reactive transport in the vadose. And first, we need to select the type of contaminants. There is a drop-down menu where we can choose nitrogen, phosphorus, or both. Okay, this is my ArcGIS Pro, and yes, this is my VMod. Okay, here is a drop-down menu. When I select nitrogen, and we only see the reactive transport parameter for nitrogen, like nitrification parameter and denitrification parameter. And if I show phosphorus, we can only see phosphorus parameter like this. And if I show nitrogen and phosphorus, we get a parameter for both nitrogen and phosphorus. Alright, let's back to our presentation. And this slide shows phosphorus parameter. And the parameter will appear when you select the phosphorus calculation, as I showed. Remember how we talk about the linear sorption and the Langmuir sorption? Well, there are governing equations for different sorption equations. And first, we have a precipitation rate. No matter which sorption you go with, you will always need a precipitation rate to represent the slow, irreversible processes. Next, you will need to show the right sorption equation based on the phosphate concentration. If it is less than 10 mg per liter or less, it is better to use a linear sorption. It's this one, linear sorption. And for this, you only need one parameter, which is the linear distribution coefficient, like here. And if the phosphorus concentration is higher than 10 mg per liter, then you will need to use the Langmuir sorption equation. And in this case, you will need two parameters. That's the Langmuir coefficient and the maximum sorption capacity. Well, this capacity depends a lot on the soil type. Generally, soil with more clay have a higher value, while sandy soil have a lower value. Of course, it also varies based on local conditions, so I recommend shooting based on actual situation. Alright, you can notice we've just added an optional phosphorus calculation function to the existing ArcNLET-Py. So if you are already familiar with the nitrogen module, I'm confident you will find the phosphorus module easy to grasp. Okay, when we come to calculate phosphorus in the groundwater transport module, it is actually exactly the same as in the visual model module. This is the transport module, and the objective of transport module is to simulate nitrate ammonium and the phosphate plumes in groundwater. And once again, firstly, you should show the types of contaminants. You can show nitrogen, phosphate, phosphorus, or both. And that's really the same as I showed in the vadose zone module. And then we can run the transport module, and it will generate the plume in groundwater. Like this slide shows, we will have the results. The results are ammonium plumes, nitrate plumes, and phosphate plumes. All these plumes are show the contaminants concentrations in groundwater, and the color represent different values. We can find a very small value of ammonium in groundwater. This is because significant nitrification has occurred in the vadose zone in this case. Therefore, most of the ammonium has been converted into nitrate in the vadose zone. Okay, alright, we are at the final procedure, the load estimation module. You will need to take the zip file generated from the previous transport module with the name information and use them as the input of this module. And you can run this module, and the result will be saved in CSV file. Here I will prepare a table. The output CSV file will give you the loading result for each surface water body, and in this case, we have only one surface water body. You will find the loading to groundwater, the amount removed in groundwater, and the loading to surface water bodies. Therefore, this is our result and this is our phosphorus case. Well, you might have noticed some citations in my presentation, and this slide includes a list of specific literature, and if you would like to get more detail, you can review the reference. And this is my presentation. If you have any question, feel free to contact us, or you can ask on our ArcNLET-Py GitHub site. Thank you very much.